Time for our week 15 lessons learned, biggest takeaways from every single game this week, excluding the Monday Night Football game that is going to be happening in about an hour or two. A ton of big performances, a ton to talk about. So, with that being said, I'm not going to waste any more time. And I'm going to get into the game that provided one of the bigger performances of the week, maybe the biggest performance of the week, the Falcons and the Buccaneers. Thursday Night Football started everything off with a bang. Kyle Pitts' legacy game, 11 catches, 166 yards, 3 touchdowns, over 40 PPR points. If you played him like I did, you more than likely lost. What a way to start the week. This is the game, Kyle Pitts, we've been waiting for about 3 to 4 years. We finally got it. It was in week 1 of the fantasy playoffs, and if you had him, it paid off in a big way. You likely did not lose your matchup. Kirk Cousins threw for 370 yards. He turned back the clock a little bit, threw 3 touchdowns in the win. Bijan Robinson had himself a night as well. 170 total yards, a touchdown, 8 for 82 through the air, just like we always talk about, increasing that ceiling on fantasy running backs just with the receiving upside that he has. The Bucs side of the ball, though, it was all Baker. It was all Mike Evans. In his first game back from injury, Mike Evans did not miss a beat. 6 for 132 on 12 targets. Disappointing nights from Bucky and Egbuka, but I think overall, I think it's a better thing that Mike Evans is back in the lineup because it provides a bigger ceiling for the offense and provides Baker more weapons to spread around and allows more of these guys to get open and get more in space. I do want to talk a little bit about Emeka Egbuka for a second because I know a lot of people have been pretty disappointed with him down the stretch here after having a really hot start to the season. He had 10 PPR points, and I know that's not the biggest game. I know that's not really what you want to see from a high-end wide receiver too, as we've been ranking him recently. He's been falling a little bit, but I think he's going to play the 1B to Mike Evans, and I think more than anything, I think it's going to help Emeka Egbuka that Mike Evans is in the lineup. Chris Godwin does not help, of course. He's been playing the most snaps. He's been running the most routes for some weird reason, but I think going forward, we have to basically rank Egbuka as the 1B or maybe just the second option to Mike Evans when he is in the lineup. Moving on to the Bears and the Browns, though. Bears completely crushed the Browns. 31-3. This game was never close. DeAndre Swift led the charge. He had just less than 100 yards rushing. He had 2 rushing touchdowns. He's still splitting with Kyle Monangai in terms of snaps and routes. They're like very, very close, but Swift still leads the team in terms of touches. It's not incredibly close there. Kyle Monangai is still getting his touches, but DeAndre Swift is the lead guy, so I don't think you have anything to worry about. He's going to stay in that mid-range RB2 kind of area. Luther Burden. Roman Duze was a last-second inactive. Luther Burden came out 7 targets, 6 catches for 82 yards. Looked really, really good on the day. In a game where I don't think the Bears had to do a lot through the air. They didn't have to throw the ball a lot. DJ Moore stepped in as well after having a really atrocious week 14. 4 for 69, 2 touchdowns. He finally came through, of course, when you probably didn't have him in your lineup. But I think going forward, if Roma Dunze, there were some reports that came out that he may miss the rest of the regular season and they may sit him until the playoffs if they make it. I think if Luther Bird is on waivers, if he's on your bench, I think he's absolutely startable. He's going to be ranked as a mid-range, maybe high-end wide receiver 3. I think it's just going to depend on the matchup and kind of what we're looking at week to week with him with these last 2 weeks remaining. He could be a league winner the last 2 weeks. I think Luther Burden has all the potential in the world, and he's going to get all the volume as we've seen with Roma Dunze out of the lineup. For the Browns, like I talked about, Shedeur had a rough day. A guy I kind of ranked, I was kind of high on coming into this week. I did end up looking at the weather, though. It was like, I think it felt like 1 degree there. It was about less than 10 degrees. Not ideal weather conditions, but otherwise, I mean, Shedeur did not perform very well. Thankfully, most of his throws went to Harold Fannin Jr., though. Fannin finished with 14 targets, a 45% target share on the day, which is ridiculous for a tight end. He only hauled in 7 of them for 48 yards, but I think going forward, Harold Fannin Jr. is the only guy you want to start, maybe other than Quinshon Judkins. Nobody at all was fantasy relevant except for Harold Fannin Jr. I thought coming into the week that Quinshon Judkins, with Jerome Ford and Dylan Sampson being out, that he was going to have a big workload. He was going to be super productive just based on how much he was going to be on the field. And with the Bears defense not being very good, turns out he had less than 5 PPR points. Not a great call by me, but we'll reassess and we will regroup in the rankings video this upcoming week. Moving on to the Ravens and the Bengals. Ravens blanked the Bengals 24-0. The nail in the coffin to another lost season for Cincinnati. Joe Burrow talked about how bad of a game he played. Took a lot of accountability, which is nice to see, but I don't think it's all his fault. He doesn't have a ton around him except for Jamar Chase. Bad offensive line. So I don't put it all on Joe Burrow. I know he had a bad game, but man, it's tough to see such a great quarterback talent somewhat go to waste on the Bengals. Ever since that year they went to the Super Bowl, they just have not looked the same ever since. The only good thing happening for the Bengals on Sunday was Jamar Chase. 10 for 132 on 16 targets. I mean, without T. Higgins in the lineup, T. Higgins may miss the rest of the season with that concussion that he had in back-to-back weeks. I think going forward, of course, Jamar Chase is going to be an S-tier wide receiver. I think we can expect this type of volume from him without T. Higgins and maybe just a little bit more. On the other side, though, the Ravens were not particularly great either. They didn't really have to be. Lamar threw for just over 150 yards. He only had 12 attempts on the day. Derrick Henry only had 11 carries. He took it for 100 yards. Like I said, he didn't have to do much. If he did, he was probably going to run for 200 on the day based on what he did with his 11 carries. Zay Flowers finally found the end zone. His first TD since like week 1. It's been 13 weeks since Zay Flowers had his touchdown coming into this last Sunday. Thank goodness. I mean, we've been waiting for it all year long, so it was nice to see that come to fruition, but 3 targets. Lamar Jackson only had 12 pass attempts, but I think going forward, they're probably going to be in more pass-heavy games with the Ravens defense not being as good as it has been in the past. Texans and Cardinals. Texans beat down the Cardinals 40-20. This game got out of hand really, really quickly. CJ Stroud played really well. 260 yards passing, 3 touchdowns. Nico Collins caught 2 of them. He only had 3 catches on the day. He didn't have to do much like I talked about kind of with the Ravens. The game got out of hand really quick. But he had 85 yards. So he surpassed 1,000 yards on the season once again, I believe in his 3rd straight season. Woody Marks left the game with an ankle injury, did not return. D'Amico Ryans, the head coach, said that he could have returned, but the score being out of hand made it easy to hold him out. And if he does miss a week, I think Jawar Jordan, who got a majority of the snaps, a majority of the touches, with him and Agumbawale in the game, might be a very, very smart pickup. It seems like every single week Woody Marks goes out with an injury, he leaves the game. So I think going forward, these last 2 weeks, if you want to pick someone up off of waivers, he's a smart pickup. For the Cardinals, the main culprits were absolutely incredible despite the tough matchup. Texans defense has been great all year, gave up 12 catches to 134 yards and 2 touchdowns to Trey McBride. Jacoby Brissett threw 3 touchdowns, with one of them going to Michael Wilson, who ended up salvaging his day, 5 for 54 on 11 targets, and of course that touchdown. Michael Carter, though, I think Bam Knight left this game, is going to probably dominate the backfield with all the injuries that the Cardinals had in their rotation of running backs. Trey Benson was not activated from the IR, so he's going to miss the rest of the season. But Carter will most likely be the lead back. He's going to be another great waiver pickup if he is out there on waivers. 53 of the 66 snaps, 18 touches, is a good receiving back. So I think he's an absolutely great pickup to plug into your RB2 spot, your flex spot if you are, kind of hurting in that area. And he's just in good matchups. I think he's absolutely startable going forward. Moving on to one of the better games of the week, the Broncos and the Packers. Bo Nix leads the Broncos past the Packers, moving them that much closer to the number 1 overall seed and securing that bye week, especially with the Patriots' loss. The Bills helped them out a ton. Bo Nix was incredible. Threw for over 300 yards, had 4 touchdowns. Cortland Sutton was awesome as well. 7 for 113 and a touchdown on 10 targets. RJ Harvey continuing that RB1 usage. Clear leader in snaps. 46 to McLaughlin's 9 and Beatty's 7. Ran the most routes by far with 18 for the Packers. Jordan Love threw the ball 40 times. Nobody had more than 6 targets, though. Reed and Musgrave were the target leaders. The yardage leader was Matthew Golden. Unfortunately, I forgot that he existed. He's been gone for about most of the season. Christian Watson leaves the game with an injury. He was actually hospitalized. It looked to be pretty serious. I hope he's okay, though, and I hope he's able to come back and be just fine this next week and just play the rest of the season out healthy. You hope for him, of course, because he had a bevy of injuries in his young career to start. The Jaguars and the Jets. This one definitely was a doozy. The Jaguars annihilate the Jets 48-20. Trevor Lawrence, 380 total yards, 6 total touchdowns. Dominant game for the division-leading Jaguars. They moved to 10-4, front of the division, of course. Travis Etienne continues his big year, racking up 105 total yards, hauling in 3 receiving touchdowns. Brian Thomas Jr., Jacoby Myers led the team with 7 targets each. Brian Thomas Jr. catches a touchdown. What do you know? We haven't seen a ton from them this year, but I think this week was a step in the right direction. I still think Jacoby Myers is going to get the nod as the wide receiver 1 and a guy I'm going to rank higher, but it's good to see signs of life in 2 straight weeks from Brian Thomas Jr. Jet side of the ball, super ugly. Only fantasy contributor was Adonai Mitchell. 6 for 58 and a touchdown on 9 targets. Maybe he's a wide receiver 3. Maybe he's like a top 40 option moving forward, but nobody on this Jets team I have any confidence in, and that includes Breece Hall, who is a non-factor in this game. Isaiah Davis was close to him in snaps and route run in this offense. This is just an unserious football team. The Jets have no interest in winning. Clearly, they're not giving the ball to Breece Hall at all. They're just ignoring the best option on offense for them. So I have no faith in anybody on the Jets going forward, and I don't think that you should be starting them unless you absolutely have to. The Chiefs and the Chargers. Chargers edge out the Chiefs in a low-scoring one, 16-13. They move to 10-4. Unfortunately, though, probably the biggest news of the week, Patrick Mahomes has a torn ACL. The Chiefs season, of course, ended as well on Sunday in horrible fashion. Mahomes' injury not only sucks for fantasy managers who own Mahomes, but who also own Rashee Rice, Travis Kelce. Rest of the season, they are going to be docked significantly with Gardner Minshew filling in as the starting quarterback and a pretty much lost season altogether. I wouldn't be surprised if they decide to shut down a couple of those guys. Yeah, not great for anybody. For the Chargers, Herbert was super average once again. Ladd disappointed. Marion Hampton was outsnapped by Kamani Vidal, 42-24. Only ran 7 routes to Vidal's 20. Not ideal for Hampton, who I ranked as a wide receiver 2. I have pretty high rest of season in my rankings. I had him ranked as RB2 this past week, which is probably not very smart. That's my bad. We'll reassess this week. I'm just hoping moving forward that they will give Marion Hampton more of the load. He looked really, really good on Sunday, but it just doesn't help that Justin Herbert's banged up and his capability to throw the ball is really limited at the moment. So I think that, yeah, we are going to have to look very much closer at the rankings when it comes to Ladd McConkey, Rondé Gadsden, and of course, Marion Hampton. The Bills and the Patriots, another great game on the week. This is a slate full of great games. Bills come away with a huge win. They beat the Patriots 35-31. Josh Allen and James Cook were phenomenal, accounting for all 5 touchdowns. James Cook had 2 on the ground, over 100 yards rushing. One of the best running backs in the NFL. No super notable pass catchers on the Buffalo Bills side of the ball. I believe Khalil Shakir had about 58 yards receiving. He had about 6 catches. Was solid on the day, but Dawson Knox is really the headliner on offense. He caught 2 touchdowns because, of course, he did. The Patriots side, Travion Henderson goes absolutely nuclear. 160 total yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 long rushing touchdowns, which was amazing to see. He's peaking at the right point in the season. You love to see it. If you move on to the round 2 of the fantasy playoffs and you have him, you have to feel great about putting Travion Henderson in your lineup as an RB1, high-end RB2 range. Drake May as well. Had only 155 passing yards. He saved his day, though, running for 2 touchdowns with his legs. We talk about it all the time, that rushing upside, how much it helps both running backs and quarterbacks. Frustratingly, though, on the Patriots side of the ball, Stephon Diggs did next to nothing. After tearing up the Bills the last time, he ran less routes than Matt Collins, Kayshon Boutte. It makes no sense to me. I mean, make it make sense. In a game they needed to win to get them a little bit closer to possibly securing that bye week and that first round bye in the playoffs, they decided to not play Stephon Diggs at all, their absolute best receiver, and play 2 guys in front of him who have no business being on the field ahead of Stephon Diggs. I don't get it, but maybe we see something change in the coming weeks with that number 1 seed on the line. Let's talk Commanders and Giants. Commanders beat the Giants, inching the Giants closer to the number 1 overall pick. Marcus Mariota, though, continues to be a solid streaming option who we're going to rank a little bit higher in the coming weeks. Jaguar Kamara comes back in the picture as a startable option. 18 for 96 and a touchdown on the ground. No catches out of the backfield, but as long as Chris Rodriguez is hurt, I think he's absolutely startable as a low-end, mid-range RB3, especially in good matchups as well. I think that's more important than anything. Terry McLaurin was solid in this game as well. He caught a touchdown, but not a ton of volume, so just going to be a little bit more docking him on his outlook moving forward. For the Giants, a lot of the same. Jackson Dart was awesome once again. That's exactly why I haven't ranked so high. I know I haven't done a quarterback in a tight end video in a while, but I'm going to try to get it out to you guys this week. Jackson Dart was in my S tier just based on what he's done this year. I mean, he has averaged, I believe, close to 22, 23 points per game in every single game he started. And yeah, he's just been great. He had 2 touchdowns on the day. He had another 60 rushing yards, which of course adds to his ceiling and the amount of points he can put up on a given week. Tyrone Tracy, the sole leader in this backfield. No more Devin Singletary. 52 of the 68 snaps, made the most of his 18 touches, took it for 103 total yards, 2 touchdowns. Great low-end to mid-range RB2 rest of the season just based on the matchup. We can pick and choose there kind of how we want to play it, but Tyrone Tracy's a great pick, a great play rest of season. Wanda Robinson as well, another guy I had pretty high in the rankings. Came away with 10 targets. He only caught half of them, a 28.5% target share on the week. Very, very good. He's consistently been this. He's been consistently been the highest on the team in terms of targets, in terms of target share. He has a ridiculous target share on the season. He caught a touchdown, which of course we know really, really helps a guy like him who has a lower ADOT and who doesn't, produce more yards down the field. Yeah, I just think moving forward, we're going to continue to rank Wan'Dale Robinson as high as we have been. He's a really great option as a wide receiver 2 week to week, especially, of course, in great matchups. Eagles and Raiders. Not a lot to talk about this game. I'm not going to take too long on this one. The Eagles destroy the Raiders 31-0. Embarrassing showing for the Raiders. Kenny Pickett makes his first start of the year. 65 yards, no touchdowns, 1 interception. Literally nothing to talk about on this side. Awful, awful, awful. Genty, Bowers were pretty much nothing in this game because, of course, 65 total yards or 65 yards of passing, not good at all. Jalen Hurts bounces back, though, on the Eagle side of the ball. Has just as many touchdowns as incompletions with 3. Dallas Goddard, though, main contributor in this game, 6 for 70 and 2 touchdowns. Yeah, just not a lot to talk about. A.J. Brown caught a touchdown in this game, but he only had 2 targets and I believe 2 catches. Kind of the same with Devontae Smith. He had 2 catches for 50 yards. I think in the coming weeks when they are forced to throw the ball a lot more, I think we're going to see big weeks from especially A.J. Brown and maybe even possibly Devontae Smith, although he has been taking a little bit of a backseat to A.J. Brown lately. The Rams and the Lions. My favorite game coming into this week did not disappoint. Rams inch out the Lions. Had a huge game, of course, over under. I think it was about 54.5. Like I said, did not disappoint whatsoever. Stafford, 360 total yards, 2 touchdowns. Goff, 330 yards, 3 touchdowns. Both defenses were carved up all day long, which is what we love to see in the fantasy playoffs. Amon-Ra St. Brown, 13 catches, 164 yards, 2 touchdowns on 18 targets. That's ridiculous. Jameson Williams, of course, stayed hot again. 130 yards receiving on 9 targets, continuing his hot streak. Puka Nacua, on the other side of the ball, did his thing, showing why he is maybe the best wide receiver in the NFL, but at least top 2 or 3. 9 for 181 on 11 targets. Kyron Williams and Blake Corum. They are almost an equal snap split at the moment. Corum played just 6 less snaps and ran 2 less routes. Both scored a touchdown. Kyron scored 2 in this game. I think that is something to absolutely talk about moving forward. Kyron is still a great option, but I think Corum eating into his role is not great. Maybe the biggest takeaway from this game, though, Davante Adams leaves the game with a hamstring injury. The Rams are not very keen on him playing on a short week. They play on Thursday Night Football just in a couple of days. They play the Seahawks. Could lead to an even bigger workload for Puka Nacua, of course, and an uptick for Colby Parkinson, who was absolutely phenomenal in this game. I believe he had 5 for 75 and 2 touchdowns in this one. So I think moving forward, I think we're going to probably move up Colby Parkinson as long as Davante Adams is not in the lineup. The Saints and the Panthers. Saints once again pulling off the upset. Tyler Shuck, impressive once again. 272 and a passing touchdown. 30 yards rushing on the ground. He's shown a good amount of rushing upside with his legs lately, and shows exactly why I think that Saints probably will not be taking a quarterback in the 2026 draft. I believe Tyler Shuck will be their quarterback come next year, and just due to the amount of quarterbacks probably not being available that they would like at this range of things. Chris Olave continuing his incredibly strong season despite having a rookie quarterback, and Spencer Rattler there most of the season. 6 for 85 though, and a touchdown on 9 targets. Going to continue being a high-end wide receiver 2, maybe even sneak into the wide receiver 1 conversation. Unfortunate event though. Devin Neal, who I thought owned this backfield, it turned into a 3-way committee this week. Audric Estime, Devin Neal, Evan Hull, they pretty much all split the snaps evenly. You cannot start any New Orleans running back. This offense is not good at all. And of course, if it's going to be a 3-way committee, nobody's going to be viable. Just don't be fooled by the lone touchdown that he scored in this game. Bryce Young has to be the most consistent person at being inconsistent. The Panthers needed a win to take the lead in the division after the Buccaneers lost actually to Atlanta on Thursday Night Football. Bryce Young is severely hurting Ted McMillan down the stretch where I thought that he would really shine, have that kind of rookie breakout down the stretch. It's not looking like it's going to happen, especially with Bryce Young being hot and cold each week. We kind of don't know what version we are going to get from him. Dowdle and Hubbard, the 2 Carolina running backs, split, but it leaned in favor of Rico Dowdle in this game. They're both splitting routes pretty much evenly. I think Dowdle might be the play, though, but we're going to reassess. It's a pretty gross situation. I don't really love starting either one of these guys, especially with the Panthers offense not being very good. The Seahawks and the Colts, though. Seahawks beat the Colts despite not scoring a touchdown on the day. I had the Seattle kicker. It really, really helped him move on to the second round of the My Fantasy playoffs. I believe he had over 20 points or somewhere around there. Yeah, they kicked 6 field goals in this game, and the Colts were not able to beat them. Jackson Smith-Njigba was his normal self, 7 for 113 on 9 targets. Rashid Shaheed, though, very productive in his second straight game. 7 targets, he had 5 catches for 74 yards, probably going to be a low to mid-range wide receiver 3 in good matchups. It's someone who I'm gonna be looking at in the coming weeks as he's been integrated into this offense, but I thought I might mention him. I guess I'll also mention the Walker and Charbonnet split. We kind of do this every week, but this week Charbonnet outsnapped Walker 33 to 25. He ran one more route. Both were awful in this game. You can't start any of them. I just don't know what to do with any of these guys. Neither of them have been productive pretty much all season long unless one of them has been out of the lineup. So I think we're going to have to dock them completely and they might be out of the top 36 consideration altogether. Kind of like I predicted though on the Colts side of the ball, the Colts skill players really, really hurt this game. Phillip Rivers starting at quarterback, a fun story, but nobody was able to really get more than 4 or 5 targets and do anything with those targets. Phillip Rivers looked like he was 45, 44 years old and hasn't played in the league in about 5 years. Jonathan Taylor was hurt by this as well. He wasn't able to get anything going on the ground. I get it was a tough matchup, but we're going to significantly dock these guys, whether if it's Phillip Rivers in the lineup, whether it's the rookie Riley Leonard, I don't really care. I'm docking them big time based on the quarterback play. The 49ers and the Titans. 49ers beat the Titans behind a big day from Brock Purdy. He bounced back in a huge way after that bye week. In the week before that, kind of crumbling versus the Panthers and throwing, I believe, 3 interceptions in that game, but bounced back big time. 295, 3 touchdowns. Purdy torched the Tennessee defense all day. George Kittle was awesome. He had 8 for 88 and a touchdown on 9 targets. Ricky Pearsall, I'd like to talk about him for a second, but he had 6 for 96. This is exactly what we want to see. I had a feeling that he needed the bye week to kind of get a little more of a ramp up and to get a little more healthy. I believe that they probably didn't rush him back, but he wasn't probably going to be fully integrated until they had that bye week and he was fully recovered from that injury. Juwan Jennings as well. He hauled in 2 touchdowns in this game. There's a lot of good that came from it. I think these are 2 guys you can absolutely have in your lineup. I'm going to bet on Ricky Pearsall going forward just based on the talent and what we saw coming off the bye. But I think Juwan Jennings is absolutely a wide receiver 3 and mid to low end guy, maybe even better based on the matchup. Titan side of the ball though, Tony Pollard, impressive once again, honestly. 112 total yards and a touchdown. He's splitting snap with Tyjae Spears, which has kind of been the theme all season. He's losing routes to him. I totally get it, but he's getting most of the touches in this offense. Cam Ward has looked better over the last a couple of weeks, and I think it's just a positive that you can maybe look at. And if you want to put Tony Pollard in your lineup, if you have to put Tony Pollard in your lineup, you can feel better about it, especially after the last couple of weeks that he has had. The Vikings and the Cowboys. Vikings beat the Cowboys, basically eliminating them from their playoff hopes, which I thought a couple of weeks ago they were kind of surging that way, and it looks like they were going to make the playoffs for a second, especially how badly the Eagles were struggling at the time. Maybe they were going to be able to catch them, but Vikings looks like they ended their hopes. J.J. McCarthy built off his past performance last week, going for 250 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a rushing touchdown, so 3 touchdowns on the day. Sadly, he could not connect with Justin Jefferson, though. He had 8 targets, but only 2 catches for 22 yards. Nobody on this Vikings team was serviceable, not any of their running backs, not T.J. Hawkinson, not Addison, not Jefferson. The only person that was Jalen Naylor. He got 2 touchdowns, but of course, we're never going to start him. Cowboys players, Dak, touchdownless. The only guy that was really serviceable on this team was CeeDee Lamb. He had 6 for 111 on 10 targets. George Pickens has kind of been inconsistent as of late. He had just 6 PPR points, but it was a tough matchup. I believe Minnesota was the second-ranked team versus the wide receivers, so they don't give up a ton of points. Just a tough matchup. I think going forward, we can feel fine about this Dallas offense overall. Javonte Williams ended up finding the end zone, 91 yards on the ground. Just no receiving work, which really hurts his ceiling. He's not going to catch any passes out of this backfield. I don't know if I can rank him as an RB1 ever, despite being on a great Dallas Cowboys offense. That is going to be all for our Week 15 lessons learned, takeaways from every game on Sunday. I know we didn't talk about the Monday night game that is happening right now between the Dolphins and the Steelers, but I hope you get big performances from Devon Achane or whoever you needed to this week and help you move on to round 2 of the fantasy playoffs. But I'm going to have some videos out to you this week, of course, with our weekly rankings video and helping you get ready for Week 16, round 2 of the fantasy playoffs. So until then, I'll see you guys later, and I'll see you this time next week in Week 17.